Welcome to Daily Stoic Practice, your compass to navigate the complexities of modern life with ancient wisdom. Have you ever looked around and felt like everyone was playing a part in some grand, unseen drama? They nod politely, smile warmly, and say all the right things, yet something feels off. Beneath the surface lies a maze of hidden agendas, unspoken fears, and untold stories. It's as though the world is a masquerade, and the masks people wear conceal more than just their intentions. They hide their true selves. But what if you could see past the facade? What if you could uncover the subtle cues, the silent truths, and the quiet whispers of someone's soul? Reading people isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. And the best part, it's one that Stoic philosophy can teach you to master. By combining ancient wisdom with a keen eye for observation, you'll not only learn to understand others, you'll begin to understand yourself. So, if you're ready to lift the veil and dive into the hidden world beneath the surface, let's begin. Tell me more, unlocking the depths of human connection. What if you could possess a superpower that allowed you to step into someone else's world, uncovering their deepest motivations, insecurities, and dreams, all without them even realizing it? Imagine the conversations you could have, the trust you could build, and the truths you could uncover. No magic words, no secret tools, just three simple ones. Tell me more. This phrase might sound ordinary, but its power lies in its simplicity. It's disarming, non-threatening, and profoundly effective. By saying, "Tell me more," you transform the dynamic of any interaction. You signal that you are not just listening, but genuinely curious. You're inviting the other person to reveal not just what they think, but why they think it. It's a subtle shift that turns a conversation into a journey that explores not only the surface, but also the deeper layers of emotion and experience. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument. Someone is passionately defending their point, ready to pounce on any counter-argument you might offer. Instead of jumping in, you pause, look them in the eye, and say, "Tell me more." At that moment, their guard begins to drop. They're no longer bracing for a fight, but instead opening a door to their inner world. What begins as a debate about trivial matters, like whose turn it is to do the dishes, might end up uncovering feelings of neglect, frustration, or a longing for appreciation. The beauty of Tell Me More is that it creates a safe space, free of judgment or interruption. And this isn't just a conversational trick, it's a deeply Stoic practice. Stoicism teaches us to listen with intent, not to respond or prove a point, but to understand. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." By asking someone to elaborate, you detach from your ego and make room for their perspective to unfold. Here's an example. I once found myself in a conversation with a business partner who was resistant to a new idea I proposed. My instinct was to debate, to convince them of why I was right. But instead, I leaned back and said, "Tell me more." What followed was unexpected. They didn't just explain their resistance, they opened up about past failures, fears of risking too much, and even personal challenges that were clouding their decision-making. That single phrase turned a potential standoff into a moment of connection and clarity. And it doesn't stop there. Whether in negotiations, friendships, or casual exchanges, this technique has an almost magical ability to reveal hidden truths. When you let someone speak freely, you uncover their motivations, fears, hopes, and even insecurities. They might begin with something simple, but as they feel heard, they'll begin to reveal layers they didn't even realize were there. It's in these moments that you truly see someone. Not just the version they show to the world, but the person they are beneath the mask. But this technique isn't about manipulation or extracting information. It's about creating a genuine connection. In a world where everyone seems eager to speak but hesitant to listen, Tell Me More is a gift. It says, I value your perspective. I want to understand you. And when people feel heard, they naturally open up. They lower their defenses, trusting that they're in a space where their thoughts and feelings are respected. The Stoic wisdom here goes even deeper. Epictetus taught us that we should observe without judgment, not to impose our own interpretations, but to seek clarity. By saying, tell me more, you embody this principle. You resist the urge to jump to conclusions or let your ego dictate the conversation. Instead, you approach the interaction with calm, curiosity, and a desire to truly understand the other person. This approach also holds immense practical value. Imagine you're in a high-stakes business negotiation. The other party seems rigid, unwilling to budge. Instead of escalating tension, you calmly say, tell me more. What happens next can be extraordinary. They begin to share not just their demands, but the reasons behind them, their pressures, their priorities, their fears. And suddenly, you have the information you need to find common ground. You're no longer adversaries, but collaborators. And here's the deeper truth. Tell me more isn't just about understanding others, it's about transforming yourself. It forces you to step outside of your own ego and assumptions. It challenges you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. And in doing so, it creates connections that are authentic, meaningful, and lasting. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation, whether it's a casual chat, a heated debate, or a critical negotiation, pause. Resist the urge to react or respond immediately. Instead, say those three little words, tell me more. What you uncover might surprise you, challenge you, or even change you. Because at its core, this technique isn't just about reading others. It's about seeing them for who they truly are, and perhaps seeing yourself more clearly in the process. We move to the litmus test of character, how they treat the powerless. If you truly want to understand someone's character, don't just watch how they treat their equals or superiors. Look closely at how they interact with those who hold less power. It's easy to be kind to someone who can offer you something in return. But when there's nothing to gain, how does that person behave? This, as Stoicism teaches, is where true character is revealed. The waiter at a restaurant, the janitor cleaning the hallways, or the colleague in an entry-level position. These are the individuals who often serve as mirrors to a person's integrity. When someone treats these individuals with respect, it reflects a strength of character grounded in humility and empathy. But when they act with arrogance, condescension, or neglect, it speaks volumes about their insecurities. They're using power as a mask, seeking validation by stepping on others they perceive as weaker. I once worked alongside someone who, on the surface, seemed like a model of professionalism. In meetings, they were polished and polite, always knowing the right thing to say to impress the higher-ups. But outside those meetings, I noticed how they treated the cleaning staff in our office, with indifference at best and blatant rudeness at worst. It was jarring to witness. That experience taught me that kindness displayed only when it benefits one's image isn't kindness at all. It's calculation. Seneca captured this truth perfectly when he said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." True virtue, he reminds us, is not about grand gestures or public displays meant to impress others. It's found in the small unseen acts of respect and decency extended to everyone, regardless of their social standing. Observing how someone treats the powerless gives you a glimpse into their moral foundation. It reveals whether they act out of genuine principles or merely perform goodness when it's convenient. This litmus test of character applies to every aspect of life: friendships, business, and even romantic relationships. The person who tips generously without fanfare, who thanks the bus driver with sincerity, or who greets a janitor with the same warmth they'd offer a CEO, that's someone who carries true virtue. This principle is not just about judging others, It's also a call to examine ourselves. Stoicism teaches us to practice what we preach. How do we treat those who can do nothing for us? Do we act with patience and kindness, or do we fall into the trap of seeing people as tools for our benefit? The answer to this question reflects not just who we are, but who we aspire to be. One of the most profound lessons Stoicism offers is the value of observing life objectively and without judgment. By doing so, we can see beyond the surface and into the heart of human behavior. Pay attention to those unguarded moments when a person thinks no one of importance is watching. Do they hold the door open for someone struggling with a load of groceries? Do they offer a kind word to a colleague having a tough day? These seemingly small actions often reveal more about someone's character than all their words combined. But why is this so significant? Because it reminds us of what truly matters. Power, status, and recognition are fleeting. What endures is the legacy of how we make others feel, the respect we show to everyone, regardless of their position in life. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Our treatment of others, especially those who hold no power over us, defines the kind of person we are at our core. So, the next time you find yourself questioning someone's character or your own, don't look at how they act when the spotlight is on them. Watch how they treat the ones who fade into the background. That's where the truth lies. And in striving to meet this standard ourselves, we not only align with Stoic principles, but also contribute to a world grounded in kindness, respect, and genuine humanity. Next is, the past shapes the present. People often say, the past is behind us, let it go. But the Stoics, with their keen observation of human nature, knew better. The past is never truly gone. It lingers in our minds, shaping our actions, decisions, and fears in subtle but profound ways. To understand someone deeply, you must understand the echoes of their past that ripple into their present. Take a moment to consider this, that overly defensive colleague who snaps at even mild criticism. What lies behind that reaction? Perhaps they faced betrayal or harsh judgment in the past, leaving them in a state of constant self-protection. Or the friend who repeatedly sabotages their own relationships. Could it be a reflection of unresolved wounds from childhood? These behaviors might seem puzzling or even frustrating at first glance, but when viewed through the lens of their past, they begin to make sense. The Stoics teach us that true understanding comes from observing without judgment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, "Look beneath the surface. Let not the outward appearances mislead you." When we look beyond the immediate action and consider the history behind it, we gain a fuller picture of the person standing before us. This isn't about excusing harmful behavior, but about seeing it for what it truly is, a reflection of unresolved pain, fear, or even past triumphs. One striking example comes from my own experience with a friend who was perpetually cautious, always double-checking every decision and avoiding risks. At first, I found it exasperating, but over time, I learned about their past, a significant financial loss that left their family in turmoil. Their behavior wasn't arbitrary. It was a survival mechanism rooted in a history they had never fully processed. Understanding this transformed my frustration into empathy. When we acknowledge the past's influence on the present, we approach relationships with greater wisdom. For example, a partner who struggles with trust may not be reacting to you, but to echoes of betrayal they've experienced before. This doesn't mean you must tolerate destructive behavior, but understanding its source can help you approach the situation with compassion and clarity. The Stoic principle here is clear. Observe, reflect, and act with wisdom. Epictetus emphasized the importance of seeing things as they are, not as we wish they would be. When you see someone's actions as a product of their past, you gain insight into their fears, values, and even their strengths. This perspective allows you to navigate relationships with empathy, without getting entangled in their unresolved issues. But this understanding also applies to ourselves. How often do we react emotionally, not to the moment at hand, but to an unresolved conflict from our own past? Stoicism challenges us to confront these echoes within ourselves. When we recognize the patterns rooted in our history, we can begin to break free from them. The defensive tone, the hesitation, the fear of failure, these are often shadows of our own past, projected onto the present. One of the most profound lessons Stoicism offers is the power of reflection. By understanding how the past shapes the present, we can approach others and ourselves with greater patience and humility. This doesn't mean we condone harmful behavior, but we learn to see the full picture, which often includes pain, vulnerability, and the desire for growth. So the next time you encounter someone whose actions confuse or frustrate you, pause, ask yourself, what might their past be whispering to their present? And when you find yourself reacting strongly to a situation, ask the same. Is this about now, or am I still answering to something from before? The Stoics remind us that life is a constant practice of understanding, of others, of ourselves, and of the forces that shape the world we live in. We move to number 4, tone shifts, the subconscious truth. Words can deceive, but tone rarely lies. Beneath every sentence lies a symphony of subconscious signals, and a sudden shift in energy, a hesitation, a pitch change, or an awkward pause can reveal more than the words themselves ever could. The Stoics, with their focus on observation and clarity, teach us that these subtle changes aren't coincidences. They're keys to unlocking unspoken truths. Consider a conversation where someone starts confidently but then falters. Perhaps their voice drops, their speech slows, or an uncharacteristic pause sneaks in. These shifts often betray inner conflict, discomfort, or even deception. While the words may continue in a polished, steady rhythm, their tone tells a different story. The voice becomes an unintentional mirror of the soul, reflecting stress, uncertainty, or doubt. Here's an example. I once worked with someone who was the epitome of charm. They could navigate any meeting with ease, their tone upbeat and engaging. But during one critical discussion about a looming deadline, something changed. Their typically smooth cadence wavered, and their pitch lowered as they answered a simple question. That was the moment I knew something was amiss. Sure enough, they hadn't made any progress on the project, and their subconscious had betrayed them before the truth came out. The Stoic approach to these moments is simple. Observe without judgment. Marcus Aurelius urged us to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. When someone's tone shifts, resist the temptation to leap to conclusions. Instead, treat these changes as breadcrumbs, clues to an unspoken reality. The pause, the hesitation, the slight tremor in their voice, they may not reveal the full picture, but they point toward where you should look more closely. This principle applies across every domain of life. In business, a client who suddenly grows evasive during a negotiation may be signaling more than just hesitation. They could be hiding a weakness or struggling with internal pressures. In relationships, a partner whose tone shifts when discussing future plans may be wrestling with doubts or fears they haven't yet vocalized. Even in casual conversations, these shifts are windows into someone's unfiltered thoughts. But tone shifts aren't always about deception. Often they're reflections of inner discomfort, the clash between what someone wants to say and what they feel safe admitting. Imagine a friend enthusiastically agreeing to plans but suddenly growing quieter when specifics come up. That change in tone could hint at underlying anxiety, perhaps about time constraints or financial concerns they're reluctant to share. The Stoics remind us to approach these moments with empathy. Epictetus taught that we cannot control how others act, but we can control how we respond. When someone's tone falters, don't pounce or confront aggressively. Instead, create space for understanding. A gentle question like, "Are you sure about that?" Or even silent observation can encourage them to open up, revealing what their tone has already hinted at. Tone shifts also provide an opportunity for self-reflection. How often have you noticed your own voice falter when speaking about something that unsettles you? A higher pitch when you're unsure, a pause when you're hesitant, or a rushed response when you're trying to mask your discomfort. Stoicism encourages us to align our words, tone, and actions, ensuring they reflect our true intentions. Discomfort in your own tone can be a signal to pause, reassess, and seek clarity within yourself. By attuning yourself to these tonal shifts, you gain a deeper understanding of human behavior. This isn't about catching people in lies or exploiting their discomfort. It's about understanding their truth. Tone is the unspoken layer of communication, a silent language that speaks volumes if you're willing to listen. So the next time you sense a change in someone's voice, don't ignore it. Ask yourself, what might they be holding back? What is their tone revealing that their words are not? And just as you observe others, observe yourself. Your tone is a reflection of your own inner state, offering you a pathway to greater self-awareness. In every conversation, tone shifts are a reminder to look beyond the surface and see what lies beneath. Next to number 5, when the spotlight is off. True character doesn't reveal itself under the bright lights of performance. It emerges in the quiet moments when no one is watching. In public, people curate their behavior, crafting an image of themselves they want others to see. But in private, or when they believe they're unobserved, the masks come off and their authentic selves step forward. If you truly want to understand someone, don't watch them on stage. Watch them in the shadows. Stoicism teaches us to strive for consistency, to act virtuously, whether we're surrounded by a crowd or entirely alone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The measure of our character isn't found in applause-worthy actions, but in the quiet, unseen choices we make every day. Are we kind to the cashier at the grocery store? Do we help a struggling stranger, even if there's no one around to commend us? These moments, not the public ones, define who we are. Observing others in these unguarded moments can be revealing. Imagine a colleague who, in meetings, always praises teamwork and collaboration, but then dismisses or belittles junior staff when they think no one important is paying attention. Or a friend who's the life of the party, but grows aloof and self-centered when the crowd disperses. These behaviors speak louder than any rehearsed words or public gestures ever could. I once had a manager who, in meetings with upper leadership, radiated professionalism and respect. But outside those meetings, when dealing with subordinates or staff with less influence, their demeanor changed entirely. They were curt, dismissive, and sometimes outright rude. It was a striking contrast, and it taught me a valuable Stoic lesson. The person someone is when they think no one of consequence is watching is often their truest self. But this principle isn't about cynically seeking flaws in others, it's about clarity. When you observe without judgment, as Stoicism advises, you see people as they are, not as they present themselves to be. The person who remains kind, respectful, and consistent, even when there's nothing to gain, embodies the Stoic ideal of virtue in action. This practice isn't just about understanding others, it's also a mirror for ourselves. How do we act when no one's watching? Do we stay true to our principles, or do we falter when the pressure of public accountability disappears? Stoicism challenges us to live in alignment with our values at all times, not just when there's an audience. Seneca said, "The reward of a good deed is to have done it." True virtue requires no witness, no validation. Reflecting on this can be humbling. Think about the small, seemingly insignificant moments of your day. Do you pick up trash on the sidewalk, or do you walk past, reasoning that it's someone else's responsibility? Do you say thank you to the barista, Or are you too preoccupied with your phone? These are the actions that define your character, not the grand gestures, but the everyday choices made without fanfare. When we apply this lens to our relationships, it deepens our understanding of the people around us. Pay attention to how your partner treats a stranger at a restaurant, or how a friend behaves when no one is vying for their attention. These moments reveal far more than carefully crafted words ever will. The Stoic wisdom here is profound. Live authentically and observe objectively. Don't be dazzled by grand displays of virtue. Look for the quiet actions, the uncelebrated moments, there where true integrity lives. And in striving for this consistency ourselves, we not only align with Stoic principles, but also inspire those around us to do the same. So the next time you want to know someone's character, don't focus on their public persona. Watch them when the spotlight is off, when there's no one to impress and no reward to earn. That's where their truth lies, and in those shadows, where yours does too. Final is emotional reactions, windows to the soul. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Our emotions, vibrant, unfiltered, act as windows into what lies at the core of our being. Whether it's a burst of joy, a surge of anger, or a wave of fear, each reaction is a signal pointing to deeply held priorities, values, and insecurities. If you want to understand someone, pay close attention to what stirs their emotions. It's in these moments that their truth is most visible. Consider someone who becomes visibly excited when discussing their passion project. Their enthusiasm reveals what they cherish and where their heart truly lies. On the other hand, a person who reacts angrily to criticism may not be upset about the words themselves, but rather what those words threaten, perhaps their sense of competence or self-worth. Fear, too, can be a revealing guide. Someone anxious in uncertain situations might deeply value stability, while another who avoids confrontation may fear rejection. The Stoic approach here is both practical and reflective. The first step is to observe without judgment. When someone reacts strongly, resist the urge to dismiss or criticize their response. Instead, ask yourself, what does this reveal about what they value? A person's emotions are a map, not just of their current state, but of their past experiences and deeply rooted beliefs. By studying these patterns, you gain insights into who they are at their core. For example, imagine a colleague who becomes defensive whenever their work is questioned. On the surface, their reaction might seem disproportionate, but if you dig deeper, you might discover they've faced harsh criticism in the past or fear being perceived as incompetent. This understanding doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it helps you approach the situation with empathy and a clearer strategy for resolution. The second layer of this practice is self-reflection. Stoicism teaches us that emotional reactions are mirrors of our internal state. When you feel anger, is it because someone has genuinely wronged you? Or is it your ego bristling at a perceived slight? When you feel anxious, is it a response to immediate danger? Or are you clinging to a desire for control? By examining your own reactions, you can identify what truly matters to you and where your ego might be leading you astray. This dual exercise, observing others and reflecting on yourself, is a cornerstone of Stoic practice. Epictetus reminds us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you learn to interpret emotions as signals rather than absolute truths, you gain the ability to respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively. This clarity not only improves your relationships with others, but also deepens your understanding of your own priorities and values. Let's return to the example of the overly defensive colleague. Recognizing their emotional reaction as a signal of deeper fears, you might approach them with reassurance rather than confrontation, diffusing the tension and building trust. Similarly, when you feel your own anger rise during a disagreement, pausing to reflect on what's truly at stake. Your principles or your pride can help you respond with composure and integrity. Emotional reactions also reveal patterns, both in others and in ourselves. Over time, you'll notice recurring triggers, what consistently sparks joy, fear, or frustration. These patterns are invaluable guides. They show you what to nurture and protect in your life and what to address or let go of. For others, these patterns offer insights into how you can support them or where you need to set boundaries. Ultimately, strong emotions aren't something to suppress or fear. They're opportunities for growth. Observing them in others allows you to navigate relationships with wisdom and compassion. Reflecting on them within yourself fosters greater self-awareness and alignment with your values. So, the next time you witness a strong emotional reaction, whether in yourself or someone else, pause. Ask yourself, what does this reveal? Let emotions be your guide, not to judgment, but to understanding. Because in those moments of raw, unfiltered response, we uncover not just what matters most to others, but what matters most to ourselves. Reading people isn't about gaining an upper hand or controlling outcomes. It's about building bridges of understanding. The Stoics remind us to live with empathy, to observe life as it is without judgment, and to maintain an open, inquisitive mind. Human behavior is layered and complex, but when you take the time to look beneath the surface, you'll uncover not only the motivations and truths of others, but also profound insights about yourself. The pauses in speech, the subtle shifts in tone, the gestures when no one's watching, these are the unspoken truths that often reveal more than words ever could. In these fleeting moments, the carefully constructed masks fall, and the authenticity of a person begins to shine through. By engaging with this deeper level of observation, you cultivate a richer, more genuine connection to those around you. Let Stoic wisdom be your compass. Approach conversations with patience and curiosity, seeing each one as an opportunity to learn, not just about others, but about your own reactions, assumptions, and values. With every interaction, you'll grow not only in your understanding of the world, but also in your self-awareness. In peeling back the layers of human behavior, you'll discover a clearer, more authentic vision of both others and yourself. If this resonates with you, please like and subscribe to Daily Stoic Practice and share your insights in the comments. Your thoughts may inspire others on their own journeys to inner peace and resilience. Don't miss our daily videos, insightful discussions, and practical tips for applying Stoic principles to your modern life.